This is the story of the unluckiest man in the world. He had simply taken a nap on his flight, but when he landed, his country had ceased to exist. Instantly, his visa, passport, and currency became invalid. Even his return flight was cancelled indefinitely. At 45 years old, he was destined to be trapped in New York's JFK airport for a full 18 years, yet Tom was completely oblivious to this fate as he was escorted to the office by security. A bald supervisor tried to explain the situation. Tom's homeland had erupted in a civil war overnight. Without international recognition, he now belonged to no nation, held no valid nationality, and was forbidden from either leaving the airport or entering the United States. No authority had jurisdiction over him. Tom had fallen through a crack in the system, and the airport terminal became his only sanctuary. The reality of his situation only hit him when he glimpsed the international news on a television. His country was in grave danger. He rushed to a pay phone, desperate to learn if his family was safe, but he couldn't decipher the English instructions. Travelers hurried past, and not a single soul stopped to help him use the phone. That night, as stranded passengers slept around the terminal, Tom sneaked into a temporarily closed lounge. He stacked old benches together to make a bed and unplugged the room's power to get some rest. The moment he lay down, a thunderous roar outside sent his hands shooting into the air in surrender. He thought it was a bomber. His instinctive fear, born from a life in a war-torn nation, had taken over. It turned out to be a false alarm. The next morning, the bald supervisor was buzzing with excitement. He was finally up for a promotion to station manager, a role he had waited 17 years to get. As long as the airport ran smoothly, the position was his. But his dream was immediately threatened when he saw on the security monitors a man nonchalantly strolling around in a bathrobe. It was Tom, who had just helped himself to a shower in a public restroom. The supervisor was astounded that Tom was being so docile. Most people would have tried to escape. If his bosses saw this, his promotion could be jeopardized. During lunch, a starving Tom could only stare at the food in the shops before pulling out his last emergency ration. Right then, the supervisor appeared. Pretending to be helpful, he hinted that the guards at the exit would be away from their posts for exactly 5 minutes at noon, a one-time opportunity for Tom to simply walk out into America. But it was a trap. The area outside was already swarming with law enforcement ready to arrest him the moment he stepped out, absolving the airport of any responsibility. Tom, however, noticed the surveillance camera was fixed intently on him. He pretended to tie his shoe, and the camera followed his movement. The flustered supervisor was forced to look away from the monitor, and Tom used the blind spot to disappear, later taunting the camera with a triumphant wave, turning the tables on his watcher. But Tom soon faced a more pressing problem: intense hunger. As he was on the verge of scavenging leftover food from a trash can, a heavy-set woman inadvertently showed him the way. She simply returned a luggage cart and received a 25-cent refund. Most travelers were too rushed to bother, but for Tom, this was a lifeline. He began gathering all the stray carts from around the terminals, forming long lines that snaked through the concourse. The machine spat out a steady stream of coins, enough to trade his small burger for a Kwahao Taotsun deluxe meal combo. The supervisor, infuriated by Tom's newfound comfort, created a new paid position specifically for collecting carts, cutting off Tom's income source. He was certain Tom would soon get desperate enough to try and break out, forcing his arrest. But an unexpected variable entered the equation. A kitchen worker named Gupta sought Tom out with a deal. He offered Tom fresh, delicious meals from the airport's VIP kitchen every day. In return, Tom simply had to find out the preferences of a woman Gupta had a crush on, a shy immigration officer named Dolores, whom Gupta was too nervous to speak to. As someone who saw her daily, Tom was the perfect intermediary. Tom agreed to the mutually beneficial arrangement. Every day, he would enthusiastically chat with Dolores, using his improving English to subtly learn her likes and dislikes, which he would then relay, with some exaggeration, to Gupta. Over time, Tom's language skills became sharp, and Gupta grew to understand Dolores better. Eventually, with Tom's help, the two even held a wedding ceremony right there in the airport. The supervisor, however, had reached his limit. He could no longer tolerate Tom turning his airport into a chaotic public square. He confronted Tom, claiming he had found a way for him to leave. If Tom declared he feared the civil war in his homeland, the supervisor could use U.S. law to help him apply for political asylum through extraordinary means. He could even go out and explore New York that very night. The only condition was that Tom had to verbally state his position. Seeing the dishonesty in the offer, Tom once again outmaneuvered the supervisor by refusing to play along.
I'm not fled from my home. So, I go to New York City now?
To prevent further trouble, the supervisor locked Tom in a storage room on a trivial pretext and heightened security for an important compliance inspection. Yet, a crisis still erupted. An Eastern European man became hysterical, clutching medication that was vitally important but lacked proper documentation. With the official translator an hour away, the supervisor was forced to release Tom to act as an interpreter, promising to help him get to New York if he resolved the situation. Fortunately, Tom spoke the man's language. The medicine was life-saving medication for the man's father, who was unaware that transporting it required specific paperwork. In his desperation, the man was willing to kneel and beg. But with the inspection team downstairs, the supervisor insisted on following the rules, fearing his 17-year career would be ruined. In a pivotal move, Tom suddenly changed his story. He claimed he had misheard, this wasn't human medicine at all, but veterinary medicine for goats. Having seen the customs forms, Tom knew animal medicine could be transported without special permits. The man, understanding Tom's clever ruse, immediately confirmed it was indeed for animals. His father would be saved. Outsmarted yet again and boiling with rage, the supervisor slammed Tom against a photocopier, just as the inspecting officials walked in. The promotion was put on hold indefinitely, and the supervisor was told he should learn from Tom's example. News of Tom's clever act spread like wildfire, turning him into an airport legend. Stores began displaying his handprints as a mark of respect. The next day, Tom awoke to the best news yet: the war was over. He could finally return home. His friends threw him a grand farewell party. With his temporary visa in hand, Tom went to see Dolores for the final stamp, only to be told it required one last thing: the signature of the now promoted station manager. The supervisor, finally having achieved his dream, agreed to let Tom go home but flatly refused to ever let him into New York. A final, heated confrontation ensued. The supervisor revealed he knew everything about them sneaking into the records room to check flight info, about Gupta taking Tom into the kitchen. Any one of these violations could cost Tom's friends their jobs. Most devastatingly, he revealed he knew the secret of the elderly janitor, Viktor Navorsky. Back in 1987, Viktor, a family man with a thriving business, had stabbed an extortionist police officer. To avoid a 7-year prison sentence, he had abandoned his family and fled, living in the airport's underground corridors for 23 years. To protect his friends, Tom surrendered. Everyone, unaware of the blackmail, thought Tom had lost his nerve at the final moment. Viktor called him a coward. Even the guards who usually sided with the supervisor were dismayed. One whispered something to Viktor. Suddenly, all the guards ran toward a runway. What Tom saw next made him tremble. Viktor, tears in his eyes, holding a worn-out janitor's push broom, was charging toward a moving airplane, the very plane scheduled to take Tom home. In an unbelievable act of courage, the old man somehow forced the aircraft to stop, creating a chance for redemption and a reunion with the family he had left behind. With Viktor creating a massive diversion and being surrounded by police, he yelled at Tom to stop worrying about them and to finally go to New York. The entire airport staff came out to see Tom off. He was a miracle worker who achieved the impossible. The supervisor, seeing his control unravel, mobilized all his guards and physically blocked Tom at the final exit.